Hi, everyone. Steve Westman live, Audiophile Roundtable, vinyl news and discussions and top picks, but also Let's Talk Music episode number 2. I'm super jacked for this one. I'm going to bring in my guest right now. I'll bring in my good friend from Seattle, Michael T. Welcome. How are you?
Good evening, Steve. How are you?
I'm good. I'm super excited about this show. I'm pumped. I'm jacked. Got two more exciting guests, and the last guest I introduce is brand new to the Audiophile Roundtable. Absolutely brand new, but we're doing this Let's Talk Music because he's going to be talking vocals today. So I'll introduce him in a second, but first I want to bring on our third guest, Pure Fidelity turntables. Here he is, Joe C. How are you, Joe?
Living the dream. How are you?
Good. Nice. I like the beard. That's looking good.
I know. Don't I look? You know, it's getting into winter time. I got do you sleep with a toque or a beanie? Because you got nothing up there. You must be freezing at night.
I've had this look for 20 years now, Joe.
See, I don't have a whole heck of a lot of hair up there. I kind of buzz it, but I need to sleep with a toque. There's my Canadian side toque.
Welcome for coming. I also I want to show the folks your Pure Fidelity turntable. You can see it behind there as well, but you've got a whole new lineup as well, or new turntable. We'll get into that today as well. But this is our second episode of Let's Talk Music. If you guys remember the first one, that was a lot of fun. We really sort of steered away from just vinyl and got into music and stories about different bands and really had fun there. So I brought in a new guest today, guys. Would you like to learn about him?
Never thought you'd ask.
Okay, well, check this out. This is his YouTube page. His name is Tim Welsh. It's called Tim Welsh Vocal Studio. Take the mic. And this guy, unbelievable YouTube channel. Take a look at this here. My kids were all over this one. The vocal coach dissects Chapel Roan's Good Luck Babe performance. Now, you got to check out his YouTube channel. I love the way he goes and he'll show the video. And then I love his face. I love his reaction to the music. I love his reaction to the artist. And I just love his overall enthusiasm. And it just really, I mean, his YouTube channel has been really successful. I mean, obviously the Chapel Roan video is taken off, as you can see here. I can't, you guys have to take a look at his channel when you have a chance. It's incredible. And I wanted to bring him on today because I wanted to talk vocals and get his analysis on some of the singers that we love, right, from the 60s and 70s. And he's of that vintage where he'll know those artists as well. So it's perfect for us. So would you guys want me to bring on Mr. Tim Welsh now? Mr. Tim Welsh, Vocal Studio. How are you?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Welcome
Good to be here.
Welcome to the show. I know in your day you did vinyl, not so much now. You're probably too busy, teaching vocal to students all over. You're in New Jersey, right? That's where your studio is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
But I know we talked before the show. You used to be into vinyl. You said Cheap Trick is one of the bands you used to spin a lot as well. So we'll talk about that. There's lots going on. And of course, I know Michael just got the Chapel Roan record a couple weeks ago, right, Michael? And all my kids at home, including my wife,
I've had it for a while.
Into Chapel Roan. And the one thing that you did mention, Tim, in your video is that the way she pronounces her some of the words is what you really thought was interesting, a little bit different than a lot of other artists, I believe, in that video. And so, I want to talk about that as well. And I know you also did a comparison of Stevie Nicks versus Chapel Roan.
Yeah.
So I want to get your take on the Steve, because I think Stevie Nicks has just an absolutely beautiful, gorgeous, lovely, incredible voice. So want to hear about that as well. But no, so guys, thank you and welcome Tim Welsh from Tim Welsh Vocal Studios. Take the mic, and I love the studio, just great. So I love your videos, and thank you for joining us. And I know you're excited, and I know you're 3 hours ahead. And I told you get your beauty sleep, right? Because it's late. It's late there.
Yeah. I'm on the early side of the clock these days. So yeah, but it's fun staying up with you guys. I don't mind staying up every once in a while, acting like a young buck still, like I can still do this.
There you go. You can still do it. Come on. So we before we get started in our talk, I know you've watched a few of our shows, Tim. A couple of announcements. Mobile Fidelity, Michael T. and Joe just announced today. Look at this. Santana Lotus, 180 gram, 33 RPM, 3 LP, $119.99. 5,000. So it's a half-inch 15 IPS 4-track analog master to a 2-track DSD 256 to analog console to lathe. 5,000 numbered copies, and here's the little promo there. So, any thoughts on that, gentlemen? Surprised?
Well, I've never heard of Mofi mastering straight from a 4-track before. That means they're doing some kind of mixing on the fly.
Yeah. So John Bandy, I know this guy. Good channel. There you go, Tim. You got your
Thanks,
first.
John.
There you go.
Cheers. Thanks, man.
And Glenn, 11 a.m. Tuesday here in Oz. There you go. Hi, Glenn. I talk to Glenn often. Thank you, Glenn. Rick V. Spinner, Linda Ronstadt, best female vocalist and song cover artist. So, Tim, we got to we'll talk about that for sure.
Oh,
Tim.
that's a singer right there. Woo,
Okay.
Yeah.
Linda
I love
Ronstadt.
Linda.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure the viewers will have a lot of questions for you as well. So, I mean, this is going to be a really fun episode for sure. But yeah, so that's what's happening. Mobile Fidelity's Santana, Lotus is coming out. I like Santana. I have a lot of his albums. I don't know. I'm not running out to get everything right now. I mean, everything.
No,
everything's
I mean,
price,
I got the Abraxas just because, you had to, just based on the 45 being such a big hit.
Yeah.
So I've got that. But the thing is, actually, I'll show you, not to hijack. So I've got this one. I've got an original Canadian.
Yeah.
And then I've got 2 Japanese pressings. And the Mofi one is not as life-changing as I wish it had been. It's good, but
Ooh, controversy. A lot of people I've read now the chat say a lot of people like that one.
it's good. I mean, it's clean. Like, the thing is that the vinyl is dead quiet, so you're automatically, and it's on newer technology. Like, there's so many things that are a positive for it, but I think the tapes were fresher back in the day. And I think that some people perhaps get a placebo effect with it, like, oh, it's the Mofi one, and they put it on. But I mean, that opening track where you get the wind chimes and stuff like that,
Yeah.
it's just as effective on my older pressings. The vinyl's a little bit noisier. There's a few more pops and clicks, but all in all, it still gives the same, the effect. So I know I'm bitter against Mofi right now. So
Okay, well, maybe you want to do a Mofi rant a little. I'm not sure, Tim, you know what Mobile Fidelity Sound Labs is. If you know that, if that comes, it's a audiophile reissue record label. So we talk about, if you hear Mofi, that's Mobile Fidelity,
Right,
Analog Productions, all that. So they reissue and remaster normally from the master tapes, or that's sort of their source to vinyl. Mobile Fidelity didn't. They actually, for years, we thought they were, but they had a digital step. So there was a big controversy about 2 years ago now with all that. So that was big.
Oh yeah, Mofi Gate.
It was called DSD Gate.
Interesting.
Yeah.
In this very niche community of the world, it was a scandal.
Interesting.
Steve, I still enjoy my half-speed master.
I still have that one too, of course.
Sounds
So
fantastic.
last Monday we had a little bit of controversy on the show, and I guess it wasn't my fault, but I had put up a article about vinyl sales year over year that the Billboard charts had published, but apparently it was wrong numbers. So I want to just go back and say, look, guys, a representative from Luminate, the data company that supplies info to Billboard's music consumption report, clarified that due to a recent change in methodology for counting vinyl sales from independent retailers, it's inaccurate to compare 2024 vinyl sales to previous years. In fact, Luminate reports that U.S. vinyl sales have increased 6.2% when comparing both the 2023 and 24 activity through Q3. Whoa. So there it is. So it wasn't down. And Tim, the article last week said it was down 33.3%. Get it? Like 33.3, the record RPM.
That's funny.
Yeah, I don't know if that was
Interesting. It's funny. I think about my students over the last 10 years. I work with a lot of artists who are coming up, or bands at various stages of figuring out what they're trying to do, and vinyls have become one of the ways that a lot of the students and a lot of the people that I work with, that's one of the big merch things they do now. Like, they'll get a suitcase out with some little twinkle lights in it, some T-shirts, some vinyls of their EP. One of my students, Sarah Hod, she's really been blowing up in the around the local area where we are. I'm trying to push her in and get her to open for somebody big in New York. Like, she printed off these beautiful vinyls for when her project, her EP dropped last year, and I know she's going to do the same again. And it's a really cool thing for, so many artists now, they work their butts off to make these projects and this music, and then in the way the world is now, there's it's like, where is it? It's like, where did all this hard work go? It's just floating in the ether. So when they get to have a physical product that they're actually selling as merch at their shows, it's like, it's such a huge part of almost every indie up and coming artist I know, especially in Brooklyn. It's like the most hipster thing to do, but they actually listen to vinyl records there too, which is cool. But yeah, so it's interesting.
Are some of your students giving you their pressings as they make them? Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, it's kind of look what I've got. It's cool. I wish I had them all up. Put them
You
up
should
on my
get that.
studio.
Put it behind you at some point, Tim.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, that would be a good idea.
Sarah Hood is fantastic, Jonah says. There you go.
Oh yeah, Jonah, you're here. What's up, man? Jonah's one of my students.
Thank you, Jonah.
Yeah.
That's one thing about our show too, Tim. We seem to attract a younger demographic at times as well. And so,
well, that's not Jonah.
No, that's not Jonah. But again, some of your students a little bit younger, I would assume, and our demographic for female, we're like 30% female as well. So,
you look way younger though, Jonah. You look great though, buddy.
There you go.
I'm not. Hey, that's cool though. That's cool. That's cool about that. You get a little mixture of everybody though. That's
I love
awesome.
it. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
I talked. A lot of people will DM me or email me. So I like to be engaged. It's really fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
So. Couple more things. Now, I want to show you guys this. I'm not going to create more controversy today. This is one of those. Remember, I used to do that things that make you go, I know Patrick Beethall. I just saw him. I'll put it up because this could be one of them. This could be one of these things. Okay. I'll get to it. So, R.E.M. Document.
Great album.
Incredible album, 1987. I want to say this is my original Canadian. Okay. Awesome. I'll get to it. Don't worry. You guys are you're thinking this is lead into it. But 1987. So it's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine. Okay. What does that mean to you? Obviously, that means things might not be great, end of the world, etc. Now, you know how sometimes art imitates life. You've heard of that before?
Sure.
Okay. So I was listening to the song. And in the very beginning of the song, I'm like, there's a certain lyric that came up. Very strange. And this is 1987. So I can put it up. So you look here. The last part, left her, wasn't coming in a hurry with furies, breathing down your neck, team by team, reporters baffled, Trump, tethered crop, look at low plane, fine, then it's the end of the world as we know it, with Trump in there, and reporters baffled. 1987. Art imitating life back almost 40 years ago.
That's wild.
Look at that. I'll look at it again. Team by team, reporters baffled. Trump, tethered crop.
What do they mean by Trump there? Like, is that like Trump, like a card? Like,
probably, but again, we can interpret it as we want because that's what you do with any lyrics and music.
But that's a weird use of it, though.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even know if Trump card even
have a look.
Really.
Well, you would know. You could break down lyrics better than anyone here, Tim. So I mean, that's
I don't know about
R.E.M,
that.
right? There you go. But there you go. It's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine.
Get ChatGPT on it.
Oh yeah.
So
there you go.
We're gonna blow up the internet today. Going, what? That happened in 1987? Great album, by the way.
Yeah. Trump's going to come
out. If you guys
to
can grab
that song
R.E.M's original albums, I mean, these go for a pretty penny, and they sound great. And Michael, you'll appreciate this. When everyone watching, this was mastered and cut by Robert Ludwig. You got to pick this one up. It sounds fantastic. Great album, 1987. I think Automatic for the People was that. Oh, that was 92. So this one was before.
Was Night Swimming on that one?
That was Automatic for the People. That was the 92, 93. Yeah, but this is
that song kills me. Oh my god,
what a good song.
Night
so
Swimming. Oh, that song.
Yeah. So
there's some R.E.M. reissues that Kevin Gray has cut too recently.
Some of them are digital, though, I do believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so I saw that with that. It's the end of the world as we know it. Reporters baffled Trump. I mean, wow. Anyways.
That is interesting.
I thought you guys would get a good kick out of that. So yeah. There you go. So you're going to run out and buy a R.E.M. document as well.
Just out of curiosity, so Tim, what is a day in the life like for you? Are you basically mostly having students physically come to your studio or whatever, boom, 8 hours a day kind of a thing, or do you have another gig? Is this your full-time gig? What's your, what's a day
Yeah.
look like for you?
I've been my primary source of income for the last 24 years has been just seeing clients in person, basically, or online, mostly in person. I started, I guess now it was 2015 or 2016. I was notoriously horrible at getting back to people that reached out to try to study voice lessons with me. So one summer I had a bunch of kids go away and I hired someone to help me schedule, and she filled up my schedule for the summer, but then I didn't have room for the kids who were coming back from the summer. So I had like 12 students that needed a spot. So I ended up hiring a teacher to help teach my overflow. And then that now has turned into 3 locations. We have a location in Philadelphia, Jersey City,
Well,
here in South Orange. I have 8 teachers
Wow.
that I've trained in my vocal method that are the most amazing. I just love them. They're incredible, high vibrating, great singers, great teachers. I have a great support staff of about three people who are like my administrators. Raya, she runs my business basically. She's like my right hand. I don't know what she's like a part of my brain. So there's part of the work I do is I've got a lot of dedicated clients that I work with every week, and I have in-person clients like 4 or 5 days a week. Then I'm working on the business on the other days, and now this YouTube thing is like it's been 4 months. 4 months ago I started doing
That thing there, Tim? That thing
Yeah,
there? Tim
yeah,
Welsh Vocal
that's-
Studio. There it is.
Yeah, it was 4 months ago. I'd been having students for years that were saying, Tim, you ought to react. You ought to do reactions online. And I was like, I didn't know how I felt about it in general. And it was, I was so busy with people teaching in my face. Like I had human beings that I was getting to work with that I made a great living with and that I enjoyed. So I was like, why am I going to push out? And then I had this student, one of my students, Camille. She's a monster YouTuber. She has 1.2 million subscribers on
Wow.
YouTube. Camille Dela Cruz is her name. She's an amazing kid, incredible talent. And I was looking at her and I was thinking, my God, she's killing it. And then I've got other students that are monsters like her, but they don't understand the game. They don't understand social media. They don't know how to do that next step. So that's where the world is now. Like that's how artists come up. That's how they get out. And so I'm looking at all of this and I'm thinking of all of this encouragement I've had over the years to where I should be doing something with the YouTube. And so I had one of those integrity moments where I was like, damn, I need to actually if I figured this out, I could help these students. And also maybe it could be a platform for me to, share the teaching. Because I know a lot of the people that are reacting are some of them are a lot younger and they haven't, I've been doing this for a long time. So I thought, okay, I'll give it a shot. And then 4 months later, and we're going to probably cross 20,000 subscribers here in the next few days. And that's, it's been a whirlwind. Like it's been a real whirl. It's, I'm trying now to shoot I shoot almost maybe like a 20-minute video every day now and edit it. And the thing is, though, I love it. Like I'm having a blast with it. So it's a weird new side quest for sure, but it's very fulfilling.
When we started, Steve showed your Chapel Roan reaction video. It said 143,000 views. Is that common to have 143,000 views?
I don't, I don't think so at a channel that had just started like this probably, but I mean, I have no idea. I'm sort of stumbling into the dark with this.
You definitely hit the algorithm on that one, right? So I mean, you had the Chapel Roan. Everyone's into Chapel Roan right now, and it's a great song. It's one of the big ones right now. And again, the way your reaction to her and the way the way you react to her, and the way your face is, and the way you're reacting the whole time, and I just love it. I actually watched it like 3 times because like, wow,
thanks.
this is really you really enjoyed the way you interpret her vocals, and again, we're big fans of Chapel Roan as well, so it's nice to see
amazing.
you break down her vocals, and she has incredible vocals, obviously. Incredible.
I appreciate that.
Tim, when you see like an artist like her where you can see the talent, is there like a sense of like, oh, thank God, at least someone who's got her ability is getting recognized as opposed to someone else? Like, is there like a sense of joy in that regards? Like, it's got to be hard to not judge an artist. And I guess if that's even a question, but you can definitely respond to it. But my second question, I guess, would be, and are you finding that perhaps autotune is almost getting harder to recognize?
I was waiting for that question.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, I've got a lot of thoughts on this. You got right to like
perfect.
One of my most sensitive topics about this
full
channel.
Screen, Steve.
Yeah.
Put him full screen. Yeah.
No.
Okay, full
We're
screen.
here for a while.
No. Jeez.
No, I mean, I don't care. It's what you guys talking. Anyway, yeah, I mean, the thing of it is like one thing this channel. Well, let me just back up and say, this is my whole approach to singing is like, it's a selfless art form. It's about the singer getting out of the way and becoming a conduit of expression for others. Like the best singers are not about themselves or they're about themselves as little as possible, in other words, And so in the doing of that, you have to build the technique, and then you have to figure out what you're trying to express, which means if you're doing a cover, you have to interpret a song, and the song's you got to have a take on the song. And then when you perform the song, you have to be connected to the text. Your technique has to be solid enough that you're not distracted by bad oo vowels, bad e vowels, missing a note. Your technique has to be fluent so that when you get up to sing in front of people, you're able to just connect to the expressive ideas you're trying to convey, and your technique is the vehicle to deliver the expression to other people. You don't think about it. You're thinking about the visualization of what the song is about. You're thinking about the words coming out of your mouth authentically as if you said them for the first time. That's what you should be thinking about, especially as a high-level performer. So I love that. I celebrate that. That's what I teach. That's everything I do is teaching singers how to connect technique to intuitive technique, spontaneous technique to expression. Like that's the name of the game. So Chapel Roan is a case study in that. She has a great vocal technique and she's very plugged into saying something that she really feels. And it's like goosebumps. I get goosebumps just thinking about her. Like she's killer like that. Then you flip to some other artists that I won't call out right now. But like, I'm having a tough time reacting to one of them because this artist gets recommended a lot, and I have reacted to this artist a couple times, and I just have a tough time with the whole. It seems to be very much more about the image, much more about the singer and the attention on the singer, and much more about how the singer looks, and much more about how the singer is being perceived to sound as opposed to what the singer's trying to express. And that's the line in the sand for me. And this is where autotune really comes into play. And autotune is very sneaky now. I don't know how much you guys know about this at all, but like you can have vocal effects processors that will completely change the vocal coming out of the artist's mouth before it hits your ears in a live show. And it's very savvy technology. It's not just like after the fact cleaning it up, which is all over the place too. Like there are people on TikTok that are sitting up in a kitchen as if they're singing live, when in all actuality, they were in a studio recording it, adding kitchen reverb, auto-tuning the crap out of it, going back to sync it with the video. Like this stuff is going on more than you realize. It's crazy.
Are you seeing, sorry to interject, are you seeing that AI is playing something where someone can be singing live? Because I see that where I'll see a artist, they're doing their thing, and then suddenly they keep on talking like they see some interaction or there's someone in the crowd. There's some reason where they have to stop the show. and they're now talking into the mic. And me as a consumer, I go, oh, thank God that they haven't had to flick a switch. They're clearly live. This is really them singing. But I'm assuming that it's not quite like that.
No, it's well.
You know
I
what I
mean,
mean, right? Like,
yeah,
because most people are going to be thinking, oh, they've got some tape or a CD that they've hit play on, and they're lip syncing the whole entire time. But now it's probably at the point where they don't have to lip sync anymore because autotune is doing all the work for them. So they're not going to. What was that band that had that scandal back in the day where
Milli Vanilli?
Yeah, Milli Vanilli, exactly.
They were my first concert, my first live concert.
Saw Milli
I
Vanilli.
swear to God.
No.
Young MC
Yeah.
and Milli Vanilli. They were I think it was 7th grade. Brittany, what was
Young
her
MC,
name?
that was a Bust a Move, right?
Yeah, yep.
I remember that song.
That was it.
So I'm assuming the Milli Vanilli switch now on autotune is something where someone can be singing quote unquote live and not have that incident yet still sound amazing.
Yeah. Well, it's happening at every level out there right now.
Okay.
And it's only going to get more complex over the next couple decades to be able to discern what's real, what's fake. What's really interesting about that, though, I've worked a lot. I've worked so much with Melodyne and FlexPitch, which are the softwares that you do the tuning and vocal tunings with. And when you spend enough time working with those softwares, what happens is your ear gets really tuned in to hear. They call them digital artifacts. They like the little things on the sound that's like, wait, that sounds a little processed. It's got a little tone to it.
You better not listen to Mofi anymore then.
Oh, is there a lot of that?
No, I'm joking.
Throwing shade.
I'm joking.
You want to do a Mofi bash today, don't you? Or a Mofi rant later?
I'm
God!
I'm just going to shut my mouth here. I apologize.
I want to get into. I want to keep going on this, but a couple other things as well. I want to shout out this record here first of all, and I'll tell you why. Who knows Andrew Hill? You guys familiar? He was obviously a pianist. I think he was born around 1930, passed away in 2007. So this is a record I just received from Palmetto Records the other day, and it's a beautiful day, and it's coming out November 1st on Palmetto Records. If you look at their website, palmettorecords.com. So they asked me to show everyone this record. It's a double LP. Very nice.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. Just loving it. I had no idea this was being sent to me, too. They just sort of arrived in the mail. I'm like, what is this? So it's kind of cool. They gave me a nice press release here. So November 1st, it comes at A Beautiful Day Revisited, Andrew Hill, a legendary jazz pianist and composer genius. So if you guys are into that, yeah, some good stuff. Sounds great.
Awesome.
So, Tim, you were saying about those digital artifacts, like you start to recognize them a little bit more.
Yeah, and you can hear... So you can hear what a lot of singers are doing right now is they have a canned lead vocal of theirs that they play as a backing track. Then they sing in real time over top of that backing track. And so sometimes what they'll do is they'll lean on the backing track to finish the phrases for them if maybe they're dancing or moving or something like that. But then in addition to that, they'll have a hardware digital effects processor that will be doing what Melodyne and Logic, FlexPitch and Logic Pro, the software that comes with Apple computers, does. They'll have a hardware unit that will be doing that to their voice, but just enough. Like, not so much that it sounds like T-Pain, but just enough that it's like, and so I can listen and hear when someone's got a little bit of it on. And so it's one of those things where I go back and forth actually on the reaction channel how much I want to talk about it, because I've heard it on, there are several reactions I've done, I've heard it on there and I haven't talked about it. And the reason I haven't talked about it is because it's a very divisive, it's like a very polarizing thing for the fans of a community, fans of an artist to talk about it.
Gotcha.
And I can still comment on what's happening with the singing regardless of, what else is going on. There actually is a reactor and a guy who does analysis out there. I don't know if you've heard of him, but this guy's amazing. Wings of Pegasus is what his channel's called. And he basically just goes out there debunking people that are, faking it. And he's really good at it. He pulls up software to analyze he actually he'll pull up Melodyne or Flex Pitch and pull the vocals into the software on camera and show people the things that have been messed with. And I highly recommend following him, Wings of Pegasus. He's got a really good vibe too. I like his energy. But yeah, he's the one out there debunking everybody. And he's really important right now. I really believe that because like one of my big missions with this channel is that I want to celebrate raw, visceral, live human vocals. Like people grabbing a microphone, recording them singing with maybe some other people or just themselves, capturing it, putting it up online. Let's talk about the singing. Like maybe some reverb, a little compression, a little EQ, but like that's it. Like let's not get into doctoring it up and getting into the DNA of a sound, So, yeah, Wings is awesome. Yeah, totally.
Interesting.
You think?
So sorry, go for it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've got a million questions. That's my problem. So
I was going back. It's just funny because I was of the age of Milli Vanilli, and that was a big thing. But I think today, if Milli Vanilli came out, sort of what they happened back to them in the '90s, I think they would be sort of embraced today.
Oh yeah.
Not what happened, the big scandal, and no one's, everyone's burning their records or their CDs. I think they would truly be embraced today in a different way than they were 30 years ago, and what happened there. Would you agree with me in that?
I think there's a pathway that I think they could build a fan base in this world. Like, they could do something experimental and, push out with avatars and AI. And this isn't me. I'm just dancing for the AI voice. I could see anything goes now. Like it's a weird world now. Like I could see somebody doing something with it, but I don't know.
The people that produced Milli Vanilli had a really successful band in the 70s called R.E.M, the producer. Yeah.
Interesting.
Really famous band.
Yeah. The songs were catchy.
Had their records, the Boney M records. I love
Mom
the
Baker,
Boney M Christmas album. That was a huge seller.
Yeah.
Remember that one?
Yeah. Wow.
Interesting. Do you find that like with your students, two things, I guess. One, you were mentioning that you've got a bunch of coaches that are kind of working underneath you that are teaching your system. What is your system? I suppose that makes you unique. And are these people that will be flying under the Tim banner, or are they teaching your system, but they're able to kind of have their own name and whatnot?
Yeah, that's the latter for sure. I can't stand the idea of creating a dogmatic sort of vocal technique that I've imposed my teachers to teach. Like that's, I couldn't do that because, I created some training materials for them. Like I have about 12 hours of videos that they have to watch, and then they take a little test on them and stuff like that. I was going over with Julia, who's like she's like my main instructor. She heads up the managing of the instructors and the sort of overall education. She's kind of keeps everything going there. We were talking about the materials, and it's been now 5, 6, 7 years since I've made the materials, and like my whole approach has evolved since then. And so it's like, there has to be an elasticity to everyone's approach to teaching. My own, of course, to the people that are working with me. The ideas that are the sort of biggest universal things we have to all agree to are the things like what I was talking about earlier with, this is about expression. This is about building technique for expression. This is about empowering singers, and everyone can learn how to do this. And this is about growth. And, there are many things we have to unify on. Then we have, I encourage and celebrate them to have lots of diverse ways that we try to get to the results, so We have a meeting once a month where we talk about the vocal techniques that we've been using with our students. Of course, I have some methods. I've created over the years some actual like concepts that I've talked about a lot with my instructors. Like I created a thing called the vocal mixer, which is like it's almost like a dashboard that is the system that I use to break down any style of singing. Over the years, I've been doing this so much, I've kind of whittled down the metrics that you would need to look at to break down a voice, like how much air is coming through the vocal folds. Are the cords closed or open? How open is the back of the throat? Do we have vibrato? How much compression is on the sound? Are the vowels more of the lateral type, more of the tall type? How are we moving between notes? Is it more angular, like the way a pop or soul or rock singer would move? Or is it more slidey and loose the way a throwback jazz singer would,
How quickly can you hear someone's voice and go there, boop, 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 boop? Like,
like a half a second. Like
really? That's interesting.
I mean, well, I could break down that sound. I can't tell you the whole map of their voice, but I can give that's a thing. That's why it's so weird, this channel, when I started it, and why it was so bizarre to me. My students are used to me breaking down voice for them. I've been doing it for so long, but I didn't push it out to the world, so it's like for me to be talking about voice and that people were finding it interesting. And I'm just like, this is what I do every day. This is weird. Like, I just always talk about singing. Like, you guys think this is interesting? It's been strange for me.
You're like a CSI profiler. Like, you're like, oh, this guy right here is a pedophile. He does this. He does this. I can tell, like you can narrow it down with the voice.
Yeah, right.
So,
yeah, I know.
No, that's I find that fascinating. So, like, if there's someone, like you've got a Freddie Mercury, for instance, let's say, who's got, a massive range, and then you've got like a Neil Young. Yeah. Is there something where you can go based on the vocal rate? Because obviously you listen to people, like there's some people out there who I've grown to appreciate Neil Young.
Yeah.
But before, when I first heard him, or even Bob Dylan, and you're like, I mean, this guy just sounds like he's always has a cold.
Yeah.
And so but then there are people who absolutely love it. So, obviously someone's vocal ability does not dictate their success in something.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, there's got to be a bare minimum where you go, okay.
Yeah, there is bare minimum right there. This is the one. Pitch control can totally strip the emotion. That's the one thing. Very good. Quick spec for VD. Very nice. That was perfect timing too, that popped up. Pitch is the one thing. Like, we can get past the tone. When we talk about tone quality in singing, we're talking about the sound of someone's voice. Like, is it dark? Is it bright? Is it scratchy? Is it warm? The tone quality is the sound of the voice. And there's a world of conversation around the sound of a voice. Pitch is someone's ability to, when it's time to go here, we get the pitch here. When it's time to go to that note, we go there, and we do it in whatever speed it's supposed to happen. If you don't change pitch fast enough, that's called pitch drifting. And in throwback jazz, you can get away with it to some degree, but you can't lean on that exclusively. And pitch is the one thing that everyone can hear and go, oh, that's wrong. Like, that will break, as the person said in the comment, that will break your ability to be able to connect emotionally to something almost across the board. Yeah, there it is. Yeah,
strip the emotion of the vocal track.
100%. Yeah, but tone quality is highly variable. There are some singers out there that have great pitch but have really weird sounding voices.
So give us some examples.
Oh, well, Bob Dylan is, I don't know if I would say he has got amazing pitch, but that's a weird voice who's moved a lot of people. He's moved a ton of people. There's a guy, oh my God, you got to watch this reaction that I did to this guy, Asaf Avidan. Oh, I just like this. I reacted to his song 900 Days. What a unique voice. I mean, it's like you can see from the way I responded to it, like such a high voice, super bright. He's got this weird, crazy vibrato that he throws in. He gets gritty sometimes. He gets screamy sometimes. He gets like sweet and warm, but it's like the height of his voice with that amount of grit, and it's just such a wild sound. It reminds me of the lead singer for Greta Van Fleet. That's another holy shit voice. Like that voice is. Oh, can we swear on this? Sorry, I don't know if we're a PC or yeah.
Go for
All right. Yeah, like it's like his voice
We're
is
sailors
killer.
on this channel, Tim. We're sailors on this channel.
Yeah, I mean, the lead singer, I don't know if you guys have listened to much Greta Van Fleet, but that guy's voice fascinates me. Like his vocal technique, the range of his voice, like he's a real interesting one. I haven't reacted to him yet on the channel, but he's definitely on the list. I'm actually starting a second channel for metal reactions.
Ooh.
Cool.
It's going to be, because I feel like I reacted to Sleep Token, and then the next day I think I reacted to Taylor Swift, and I felt weird about that. It's like I feel
What a
like
contrast.
But then I found out some of the Taylor Swift people like Sleep Tokens because I mentioned it in the video, so that was kind of interesting. But yeah, I feel like I want to start something separate. It's going to be Tim Goes Metal is going to be the name of the channel, and it's going to be all metal, alt rock, heavy rock reactions. I want to talk about grit singing. I like talking about grit singing a lot.
So this isn't grit singing, but this is one of my grails. So in the audiophile world, there's a company called Speaker's Corner. And for the longest time, I wanted the Speaker's Corner Supertramp Crime of the Century, which I finally was able to get thanks to Josh from High Fidelity Records. Now, Roger Hodgson, his vocals, you must know this album, Tim. What are your thoughts on Roger and overall in terms of his vocal range and whatnot? Can you give us some analysis?
Are we able to pull anything up here or no? Could we listen?
No, because it's copyright, and I'll get all.
Oh yeah. Well, and I haven't broken him. I haven't listened to him in a while.
Like Dreamer,
channel.
Like the
Tim
song
Goes Classic Rock.
Yeah, like the song Dreamer, right? I mean, if you know that song.
Yeah. So, there was a time, this was back in the day, there were a lot of interesting, like that kind of like high.
That's him, exactly.
Yeah. That whole way of singing was really, really interesting. With that way of singing, it's a mix. It's a type of sound. I call it compressed falsetto is the terminology I use. Nowadays, the term that's kind of coming up is called the flageolet register is a term. It's like above your falsetto. Falsetto is like it's like the windy, fluty register of your voice. The flageolet register is like where it still sounds falsetto-y, but it's a little pinchier and a little screamier kind of. Like that's like that register. And there was a whole bunch of guys back in the day, and I guess I would say maybe what year was that? What year was that?
78 around there.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, we're like coming to like the tail end of like coming out of the disco era style of singing, which was really a very different male vocal use of male sound in that time, and it was there. You think about it compared to like Robert Plant, there was much less compression. Robert Plant, he sang with squeeze. He sang with the grit element to the voice, which you get through cinching your pharynx. I think about Dreamer. That's like he doesn't have as much compression on his voice as you would think about with like a throwback rock vocalist of back in the day. There's not as much edge on the sound, and that was one of those like disco era type of things. You think about the Bee Gees and then then you think about like some of the punk stuff was kind of a response to that, sort of like
Mistaken. Crime of the Century was 73. My apologies.
73. Wow. Okay. Wow.
I thought it was later than that.
That was right in the heart of all that type of that male singing. So really what happened in the male vocal technique then was we lost the punch, we lost the grit, we lost the compression, and it became much more of a lighter, a more airflowy fronted sound. Think about like Staying Alive, like Bee Gees, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Like it's really like a high place. Now I wouldn't say that, Dreamer is exactly that far in that direction. There's a little more punch on it, but
it ain't no Billy Squier though.
Yeah.
Do you know Billy Squier's voice?
Yeah, I don't think I could talk about it without hearing though. These are I haven't.
yeah.
I would have to hear a little bit probably to.
So you were saying that how the disco era kind of affected the vocals and how
Oh,
it kind
yeah.
of, you get into the punk. So do you see a trend right now with where vocals are going?
Oh yeah.
And what is your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah. I mean, Billie Eilish. That's she. There. But really, when you say Billie Eilish, you're really talking about Lana Del Rey, and
Gotcha.
this like
I
sort
love
of
Lana.
the micro singing stuff, and Lana Del Rey. She really has this. She sings with such small pronunciation, and I really think that there's been a movement in music over the last decade, maybe 10, 15 years of people who are able to get relatively high quality recording software at the consumer level and being able to write songs and record songs in their bedroom and really experiment with their voices at a high level of quality that only artists that were picked up by a label back in the 70s, 80s could do, even the 90s, And so we've got all these people doing all of this interesting stuff with their voices, people sitting in their bedrooms, trying to sing and write songs out of earshot of everybody in the house. And so there's there's so many artists that are doing this micro singing. I call it micro singing.
Like
Billy,
breathy.
it's like quiet. It's very minimal expression. You think about the articulation of the singers from back in the day. Back in the day, the singers, even the 90s pop power divas, there was a lot of articulation. There's a lot of mouth movement and stuff. The singers nowadays is under the ocean. It's so minimal. It's like this micro thing.
Yeah.
Nessa Barrett, Lizzie McAlpine, Billie Eilish, Lana Del Rey, and there's so many of the. It's like this micro voice movement,
and that's where Chapel Roan's a little bit different. She pronouncing her vowels, really pronouncing each word that she's singing. A little bit different.
She's more
than some
dynamic.
Of those other artists. Yeah.
If you compare her to Billie Eilish, Billie Eilish started off singing in a very small little protected, beautifully constructed thing with her brother, this brilliant art, they're geniuses. And then over time she's been maturing, she's been expanding. She's now belting a little bit more. Her song The Greatest, she's belting. She's, definitely opening up her technique and growing, and she's expanding into this newer version of herself that is still very she's not raucous, she's not wild, she doesn't have crazy abandon to her. Chapel Roan is a live wire. She's like a firecracker. She sang Barracuda. Did you guys hear her sing Barracuda? Did you see that reaction? Did you see it? Man, that's a monster of a song. When I saw that she was doing that, I went, oh my God, that's a real Ann Wilson.
Yeah, and Tim, Sir Elton John's favorite singer currently is Chapel Roan.
Yeah, I could see that.
Say? Yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah,
this lady, she's a little bit more indie. Her name is Lennon Stella. Same kind of very breathy vocals, and I find myself as a consumer just wanting her to you can tell that she could belt it out. She could really, and I find that I'm just caught whenever I listen to her. Love the album; it's a great album, but I find that there's so many moments that when she actually, there's only one track on that entire album where she actually really gives it her all and sings with some conviction. And I'm like, oh, finally! So I feel like there's this. As I listen to some people, I feel like I want them just to let it rip.
Yep.
And they don't because it's not in fad, and it's hard to listen to someone like that. You know what? I don't know if I'm the only one who feels that way.
I think that the way I think it is nowadays, though, is I think it's all about finding your audience, and there is an audience for people with big dynamic powerhouse vocals out there, and there is an audience for these micro singers, and there's an audience for vintage throwback singers, and there's an audience for screamo heavy metal stuff. Yes, I agree. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah,
Tim, I wanted to ask you about an artist in the 70s that had really amazing vocal range. Minnie Riperton.
Mm.
You know the song "Loving You"? Remember how high she'd go?
Oh, like loving
Yeah,
you.
exactly.
That one. Okay, yeah, that song.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, beautiful sound. Now see that she would. And God, I wish I could listen and break it down. But it'd be more fun to be able to.
She
like,
died
say,
really young too.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, so now, if my memory serves, like she's from the time where, like, there was more animation in the pronunciation and articulation of the words. You know, there wasn't this mumble singing stuff as much. You know, and yeah, and there's like a what I love about that. And I have to say, what I think is impressive about Taylor Swift when I've listened to her, like Taylor Swift is she's lyrics driven, she's text driven, she wants to tell the story, and that plays very much into the whole idea of being a selfless artist. I really dig that about her. And a lot of the artists from back in the day, it was the same thing. It was about telling a story. It was about making sure the story was understood because we wanted people to be moved. You know, it wasn't this like show of trying to create a sound that's cool, you know. But there were some cool sounds though back in the day, of course, you know.
Yeah, no, I find that it's the same as movies. Back in the day, you actually needed the story to be compelling enough. You couldn't rely on special effects and CG. Yeah. And now we've gotten to that point now where it's just CG is king. The story comes secondary, and you get these movies that are completely forgettable. Yeah. And so, you know, it's probably the same as, you know, it's music. Funny. I'm a golfer, and I am always playing classic rock when I'm golfing. And because of the demographic, most of the people that I'm golfing with are, you know, of an older, you know, vintage, you could say. And they're always like, "Oh, wow, I'm shocked that you like to listen to this." I'm like, I don't know. I like artists back when they actually used to play instruments. Yeah. I mean, call me crazy. Yeah. You know? And,
that's been a huge focus. You know, with the channel, I've been kind of finding myself a little bit in that, you know, really, like, I'll have a reaction. People will ask me to react to something, and then I'll start to react to it. And I'll have, like, some of them, I'll have a reaction to it where I'll stop and I won't post it because I'm not vibing with it, and I don't, and what it's very clear that I'm liking right now. And there's this one artist I'm reacting to a lot. His name is R.E.M. He's a British artist. One of the most insanely brilliant. You guys got to check him out. Like, I would start with the High Ren, the video of him. He's this kid who's been through a lot of like health issues. He got Lyme disease, and they only recently they figured it out. And he raps a little bit. He kind of sounds like Eminem. Then he sings and he sounds like Sting. And then he flips and he does this whole reggae thing. He does collaborations with this like pocket of artists around Bristol and a few different areas in UK. Yeah, Ren is crazy good. Yeah. And he surrounded himself with these orbital artists around him that are the most interesting, raw. Talk about like what you guys are into as far as like singers singing. Like, these people are insane. They do one take shots of almost all of their recordings on YouTube. And I would say probably at least a third, maybe half of my followers are renegades or fans of Ren and people that surround Ren. And I've reacted to maybe 20 or so songs of him and his fans. And he's absolutely mind-blowing. And, you know, it's just some of the most innovative. And many of the people that follow him are 50, 60-year-old people that had lost faith in music. And he has re-inspired that there is music that's going to be like the 60s and 70s, like guys that are just winging it, getting up with a guitar and singing a one-take shot in a warehouse before they get chased out and then posting it, you know, stuff like that. Like, so it is out there. It's just, you got to find it, you know, and the mainstream is not where it is. It's not in the mainstream, at least not a lot of the time, I think, at least, you know.
So Stevie Nicks, Fleetwood Mac singer, of course, lovely voice, obviously. Dreams. You did a comparison. You did a Chapel Roan versus Stevie Nicks, and it was it Dreams? I think was the song.
Yeah,
I can't remember. It was Dreams.
Yep.
So tell the folks the differences between the Stevie Nicks version and, of course, the Chapel Roan version, and sort of what you heard from both vocalists.
So in those two recordings, well, Stevie Nicks in general, if we'll just talk about Stevie Nicks's voice. I mean, Stevie Nicks has a very unique vocal tone. And, we can look at it kind of like, the way I like to think about it is like, I used to work in restaurants a lot, and like a chef sticking his finger in the sauce and he tastes it and he can tell you everything that's in the sauce. It's like, I like to approach talking about voices like that. Like, let's break down what makes her sound the way she does. Like Stevie Nicks has, if you think about her sound, although there is diversity in the sounds she can make, her sound is very pointy. It's it's very brassy a lot of the time. It's got a pingy nature to it. It has a cut to it. The opposite of like a warm, open, like she's not like, she doesn't have a big, hollow, cavernous type of a voice. She has a sort of smaller, a little squeezier, a little pointier, a little more of a cutting type, a little more trumpety type of a tone. And she gets that through having a decent amount of vocal fold closure. Bop, bop. That if you're going to make a brassy sound, you have to have clean vocal fold closure, and you have to have a decent amount of thickening of the vocal folds. Also, she doesn't have very much space in the back of her throat. Her larynx is relatively high when she sings. And that's not a bad thing. That's made up her sound. It actually makes it easier to control your voice when you bring your voice fronted like that. So she has a very small space inside. She has a decent amount of pressure, a little more punch, a little more brass, a little more outward projection to her singing than Chappell Roan does. Chappell Roan, especially in the way that she sang Dreams in the video of her, she was like several years ago. In the video that Chappell Roan was singing Dreams, she had a lot more airflow through her sound. It was a lot lighter. It was a little more introspective. It was a little more internal, like, she had a lot more airflow sound. Stevie Nicks is just, ba-ba-da-ba. She has just that, like, that ping, that punch to her voice a little more. Now, Chappell Roan can sing like that, too. She just chose to sing that cover in that way. Chappell Roan can get very pointy and very punchy with her voice when she wants to. Chappell Roan has a lot of diversity in the vocal paintbrushes she sings with. A lot of them. She's a real vocal shapeshifter in a really cool way. So, yeah, I agree. Mr. Stickermania, that's a great name too. I like that. Yeah.
How about some male vocalists now, Michael? Which ones do you want Tim to talk about?
One from the 1970s that I think he's well known, but he's underappreciated for his vocal abilities. Paul Rogers, Bad Company and Free.
Oh yeah, let's see.
He really had that voice you were talking about, that punchy voice.
Yeah, drive.
Yeah.
I would have to hear something to break him down more specifically, but from what I remember, it was like this was a time when there were so many everybody sang raw. Nobody was auto-tuning anything. Like everybody's just going for it. I remember I had one of my buddies when they burned files on DVDs. One of my buddies who was a sound engineer had Stevie Wonder's tracked out Superstition, like every single of the tapes that were done of every instrument. And so you could hear Stevie Wonder's live take. It was like he did that whole thing on one shot. One shot while he was playing.
Wow.
Like unbelievable. So like this was back in the time when like it was different. Like you had to deliver it. Like I just reacted to Linkin Park, Emily Armstrong, the new singer for Linkin Park. She's a killer. But she in the studio version of Heavy Is the Crown, the bridge, she sang much higher, much higher than she did in the live concert when she performed it. So, they're taking things down. This isn't something that you would do as much back in the day. No, you go for it. Like you always go for it. You think Janis Joplin wouldn't have gone for it? No.
Yeah.
Well, that was another one. Janis Joplin's voice, obviously very unique. What's your perspective in that?
I haven't been able to verify this. Maybe some of your followers or someone would know this to be true, but this is a story that I've heard from a couple different places about her, that she hated the sound of her voice when she was starting off, and so she would go out in a back field and she would scream until she she actually damaged her voice. Like she tried to make her voice sound like the way, like she would consciously try to damage her voice because she didn't like the way it sounded so that she could sound that way. I don't know if that's true or not, but she definitely had nodules.
I wouldn't doubt it. Like Miley Cyrus, I don't know how many Miley Cyrus fans there are that watch the channel, but her voice now is very raspy, very harsh, and I mean, she can still sing a tune, but I mean, if you watch her from her early days, and she was on, she was being interviewed, and she basically said that Disney, who she was under their label, they just ran her through the ringer. And to the point where it really, really damaged her voice to where it is now. I mean, you listen to her talk, and it's more raspy than when she actually sings.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I wouldn't doubt that about Janis Joplin at all.
Yeah.
Either that or she was doing 10 packs of cigarettes a day, one or the other.
It's probably all of the above. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times that the singers, like when singers nowadays have vocal issues, like Adele had vocal issues, Elton John had vocal issues, John Mayer had vocal issues. Like it's not an uncommon thing, and I don't think that, as much as other voice teachers like to point at it being vocal technique, I think a lot of it is what you're talking about with Miley. Is it's like just people being just the grind of the schedule. You know, it's like because you think about it, like if you're Adele and you just sold out Madison Square Garden, and then they extended another night or something, and then but you're like, but I'm really tired and I have my period and I can't sing today. It's like, well, okay, you're going to lose us, $10 million, like, or whatever it would be, like that's, I think these artists. So then what they do instead, they have these voice doctors come in, these vocal experts. They stick them with prednisone, give them steroids to bring the swelling down. Come on, push through. You can do it. And that's a weird feeling, getting a shot of prednisone. I had that happen one time in a performance. I was doing this musical, Kiss Me, Kate. And my now ex, we were both the leads at the time, and we didn't have understudies. It was like a small black box theater in Littleton, Colorado. And we both got really sick, and we lost our voices. And we got the prednisone shot. And it's like signing your soul over to the devil. It's a weird feeling. Your voice is gone, and then all of a sudden it comes back. It's a very strange feeling. So anyway, Joe Cocker is raspy. Yeah, Joe Cocker.
Oh, I love Joe.
Yeah,
that shot that you're saying there. When did they discover that? Like, I don't know when that came out.
The steroid shot, the prednisone.
Yeah, to the point where that affected the, like. Is there a point in history you go, I can almost tell that people were pushing it a lot more at that point when that came out? Like, I'm wondering what Dr. Feelgood discovered this.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly when it became a part of the scene, but, it's definitely, like, there was this guy, I won't say his name, but there was a guy, when I used to do a lot of theater and opera when I lived in Colorado, and there was a doctor in the scene out there that was known to be the guy that you go to if you lost your voice and you're like, oh, I need I need that fix. I'm not going to make it through tonight. And that he would give you that shot. Like, it's a weird thing. Like, it's, prednisone's a weird thing in the singer world. Like, whether you do it, and like, there's a stigma if you do it, like, because vocal, being able to you have to have a technique that gives you longevity. Like, think about old school, like Ted Neely. Ted Neely sang until the end. Axl Rose, yeah, that's right, Shane. Axl Rose's voice is really in trouble right now. If you've heard him sing lately, it's.
Have you seen his face lately? All that Botox?
I know.
Doesn't even look like the same guy.
No, I know. It's sad. Yeah, he's not. Yeah, his voice is gone, and it's. Bon Jovi. I don't know if you're familiar much with his vocal issues that he has, but one of his vocal folds really got super thickened and sort of almost like just became super tough. And apparently they did a surgery to release the thicken. See, the vocal folds need to stretch. Like, they have to have an elasticity to them. And you bang them so hard for so long, they do what the body does. The body will toughen and thicken the tissues. And so that's what happened to Bon Jovi. One of his vocal folds got so thick and so tough that it wouldn't stretch anymore. And apparently he had a surgery, and I'm excited to hear he was saying that it worked. But I'm wondering to what degree. You know, I'm very curious about that myself.
Tim, what is your take on Bod Skaggs' voice? A unique swallow kind of sound to me.
Yeah, that is a unique voice. So it's pretty gritty, right? Like if I'm remembering correctly, like it's a lot of depth of tone, a lot of grit. I'd love to hear, but there are ways that you can make the grit. Like when I think about Bod Skaggs, like there are ways that you can make grit on your voice that isn't from damage. There are ways you can make grit on your voice that is from damage. And some of these things, like Joe Cocker was mentioned earlier. I think Joe Cocker was probably one of those singers that just blasted away on the voice until it just didn't sound the same again. And the cool thing about, us all as a global, vocal community of sharing information is we figured out that you can sing with a lot of grit on your voice without damaging your voice. That's a lot of what I teach these days. And, so it's an interesting thing, but a lot of these throwback singers from back in the day, they just went for it, like Joe Cocker just went for it.
Well,
what are singers?
Scott Wheeler says, what about the singers who seem to be bulletproof, like John Anderson, Peter Gabriel, Justin Hayward, David Crosby until he passed, and John Fogerty? What are your thoughts on those guys?
Well, let's see. Let's think about those voices. The thing that I really think plays into longevity, and the way that they sang supports this. I would say, yeah, pretty much all of them, really. I mean, if you think about none of these singers here, and correct me if you think I'm wrong here, none of these singers here were really like fight your voice type of singers, like Meatloaf, like he blew his voice out in the way that he sang. Like it's just, you could watch him sing sometimes. It was like, he was like shaking from his vibrato in his body. And I think about Peter Gabriel. Peter Gabriel, he had a relatively clean way that he sang. He had, the thing that makes your voice have longevity is not putting your voice into postures that are going to burn it out over the years, And what does that mean? That means clean vocal fold closure. That means having a variation of thickening and thinning of your vocal folds when you sing, not getting to an air pressure amount that is unsustainable over a long period of time. Like I would say the way that Axl Rose sang was not sustainable. There are ways now, though, to sing the way Axl Rose sang, but in a healthy way. I've got a student that we sing mostly Guns N' Roses covers. He's only been studying voice for like a couple of years now. And I don't know, Neil, if you're out there watching, he's great though. Like he started off, he didn't have any of the high notes before we started, but he was that type of singer. He was like a tenor, had the higher voice, and we built his upper register. He sounds killer up there, but he's not costing himself a lot. So there's technique for all of that, but I think those guys were relatively clean singers who didn't push their voices too much. Well, he could go for it, yeah, but he wasn't.
Gabriel, yeah.
He wouldn't drive it. He wouldn't. And maybe I'm trying to think of how gritty. Because whenever I think about Peter Gabriel, I don't think of like super gritty. Was he ever like super like? Rah,
Not like John Fogerty. I mean, that's grit right there.
Oh,
CCR.
okay, yeah.
Oh my God.
Right. Yeah.
Well, even
he lost
Louis
it.
Armstrong. I mean, Louis Armstrong would smoke a pack of smokes before he got into the studio.
Totally.
You know? I'm sure there's got to be that fear that if you're known for something, you're like, shoot, if I don't maintain this, I'm going to lose my, my edge or whatever the heck it is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he had to just, sad.
Yeah. There are people that do try to do things to their voice like that. I knew this one operatic tenor when I used to sing opera who he hated how high his voice was. So he smoked. He believed in smoking because he wanted to lower his voice. Like that was his actual MO, or what he told himself. But which is kind of strange. Like as an opera singer, he would be out behind the bush. We were in Germany singing in the small opera house, and he would go out behind the opera house while the audience was out there kind of too, and he'd be like secretly behind a bush smoking a cigarette, and he was the lead of the opera. It's like, dude, come on, man. But yeah.
Michael Green says Pete Townshend of The Who, great
Oh
voice,
my God,
underrated.
yeah, incredible singer. Yeah, yeah. I mean, like he had one of those voices that he had a lot of bite in the upper register. He had a lot of cut, a lot of excitement, a lot of fireworks in his tone quality in the way that he sang. And you know, there's an art, actually, I just reacted to I'm going to be posting it soon. You got to check it out. John Farnham. He's an Australian, he's like a big Australian artist that the Aussies have wanted me to react to, and fascinating vocalist. Like, I can't believe I hadn't heard of him, but he plays right into this world, like the sort of Robert Plant-esque, you know, time period. Interesting, but more open than Robert Plant a little bit. Like, I'm excited for you to check out that reaction. It's currently still blocked by YouTube, but my dispute should be releasing it soon here with all the copyright stuff.
Can you, speaking of which, so if you're playing a reaction video, can you still get monetized, or can you monetize that even though it's got snippets or pieces of the full song, or are those kind of pro bono reactions that you do?
It's really hit or miss. I mean, there are some artists that choose to share their revenue of reactions with the reactors, like this artist R.E.M and the people that are in his circle. Like, R.E.M has realized that reactors have been a big part of him blowing up, so he leverages them and does that. But then like then on the other side of it, I reacted to Sabrina Carpenter and Christina Aguilera sang "What a Girl Wants."
Yeah,
and that video got pulled down. It got blocked a couple days ago. It was doing pretty well, and but then the copyright owners decided they didn't like me having that one up, so that got pulled down. This is just the nature of doing a channel like this, is that some artists are for it, some companies, you know, the fair use clause, which is what reacting falls under, is a very gray area right now. And so the way that YouTube has found a workaround for it is they give the copyright owners a bunch of different options for how they get to get revenue or not from things. So I try not to think about it too much and just like shoot the next video, and not like, if I get too caught up in like, okay, well, this artist is letting me monetize and this one isn't, then I'm just going to get pigeonholed into, I'm not motivated by the right things. Like, I feel like what should be my motivator should be, I'm reacting to the things that I'm feeling intuitively inspired to react to, and also that the people that are following me are asking for, you know, like, so I try to like, you know, pay attention to what people want, what people are looking for, and then, you know, react to that as much as possible. So
Mac is asking, I wonder if Tim thinks Jim Morrison lived, did he have another couple of albums left in him after L.A. Woman? His voice changing from a crooner to his debut album to a blues singer in L.A. Woman. Thoughts on Jim Morrison and his sort of changing voices from debut to L.A. Woman?
I love Jim Morrison singing. I used to be obsessed with his singing over the years. Actually, in my college a cappella group, the Buffalo Chips, I went to University of Buffalo. We did a cover. I did "Touch Me." I arranged "Touch Me." That was one of my favorite songs, and
So
yeah, I mean,
you're going to give us a snippet of how you sing it?
bump up, da da da. Yeah, no, I don't think so now. But yeah, it was like Jim Morrison. You know, such a beautiful sound. He did definitely have his crooner technique early on, and then as time went on, yeah, there was the more we get into the rock stuff, and I do wonder how much of, because I don't know this, I don't know his history specifically, but I wonder how much of his vocal change when getting more rocky and growly in his sound came with the drugs and the escalation of all of that stuff. I wonder how much that played into it, because that is something that happens with artists sometimes. As your voice starts, as you start to lose your ability to sing in a clean way, you just start leaning into the grit. You just kind of start masking it's like, well, you can't sing clean anymore. So you just keep, because you can always make it gritty. Like, because the grit sound, when you hear grit, it's not coming from the vocal folds. It's coming from other things vibrating in the throat. So, when you create a growly sound, you can just sort of you can hide your voice, Pause the feed for a while. Yeah, it is. The Wings of Pegasus is really, really awesome. I highly recommend checking it out, especially if you're into like our people auto tuning and stuff like that. Janice didn't sound that great live. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, she's definitely an acquired taste. I will say that there are, one thing I've noticed a lot is like its tone quality texture is the name of the game now. Like having an interesting tone quality to your voice is really big out there right now. Like having the right, like I think about Teddy Swims. I don't know if you guys have heard Teddy Swims at all. Like that guy.
Love his voice.
Oh, so I did a reaction to him, and he's a master singer. His grit is variable. He turns it on and turns it off. He's known for being a grit singer now. But if you go back, he was just a YouTuber back in the day. He just like sang covers like beautifully. There are covers of him singing these like floaty Billie Eilish songs, singing the hell out of Chris Stapleton. His version of Tennessee Whiskey is killer. And then he sort of re-imaged himself. He wrote an album, and now he's like Mr. Bluesy, like badass dude. And his grit is very controlled. He's doing it it's not like he's knows what he's doing. Like that guy's a killer vocalist right now. Really, really good.
So what type of genres are you listening to these days? Just everything, Tim? Are you into the classic rock, like the stuff that we talk about all the time from our show? I mean, what comes to mind is someone like Leonard Cohen. I mean, that is the most unique. I mean, that's not really a singing voice, but I mean, it obviously connects, and it's connected with so many millions of people over the years. I mean, what do you think of him?
Oh, beautiful. I mean, gorgeous voice, and also it's the songs too. It's the like that's the thing about it is what makes great singing is very simple. It's were you moved? Were you moved? Okay, that was great singing. Like that's really what it is, and there's so many different ways that a person can use their voice to go about that. It's not just about the gymnastics, although they're fun to talk about and they're fun to see. But when push comes to shove, like when you think about what you listen to by yourself, it's a very weird thing. It kind of moves around for most people. It's like right now, honestly, what I'm listening to right now, which is like, this is just where my whatever artistic muse is. I've been listening to a lot of Afropop lately. Like crazy. I've been super into Afropop. I don't know why. I love it. Like I'm dancing around my garage before I lift and work out. I'm just like, it's like weird fun. It's like stuff I've never heard before. And I think part of it for me, that's like, because I teach so much voice, like, and I'm talking about singing like my whole life, that like a lot of times I like to listen to experimental, like avant-garde, weird dance music, electronic music. I listen to a lot of crazy stuff these days. So, but I do listen to classic rock, of course. I have, a lot. But
how do you find in regards to your teaching? Because obviously your own vocal, you've got your own limitations. How do you teach someone who can sing beyond you? Like, is it kind of those classic situations where are you having to constantly give examples, or is it like, how do you teach someone to do something that you yourself can't do?
Right. Yeah. So I guess the way I would approach that is say, it's important to know how to do everything that everybody can do, but you don't have to do it as well as they can do it. Like, for instance, like I've got students that are much better riffers than I am, but I can still help them make their riffs better. I still understand technically when they're riffing, what went wrong with it, because I understand the mechanics of riffing. Same thing as, in singing opera. Like, I sang opera for years. Like if I get someone who I'm working with who is on the operatic path who can sing higher and louder and whatever than I can, I'm still able to understand the mechanics of how to make their voice do better what it is that it needs to do through technical understanding. So it's not a matter of like, oh, you can belt a whole step higher than me, therefore I can't be your teacher. It's like,
Sure.
it's much more. It's really the thing is, a lot of the great teachers are not as good vocal technicians, because being a great teacher is a whole nother art form in and of itself, where it's really more so about your skill to figure out what's going on, not only like personality, emotionally, expressively with the song, but anatomically speaking. And a lot of artists who are amazing singers, they have no idea how they're doing what they're doing. And they couldn't tell you how they do it. They certainly couldn't teach anybody how to do it. So,
Gotcha.
this question here. So
Yeah.
how do these opera singers preserve their voices? Yeah. Well, the thing in opera, it's a lot easier than it is in pop or contemporary commercial music. In opera, at least this used to be the tradition. I'm not sure nowadays with the way the world is, but the way that it used to be back in the day was, if you sang on a Friday, you don't sing on a Saturday, you sing again on a Sunday. So you have a day off in between. And that was great. Like you would rest. You just sit around, you'd eat, hang out with rich people, and then sing again on Sunday. Like that was the gig. So opera singers are, in general, opera singers are much more trained singers in general in the world. Like, you went to college usually for it. Like, you've got degrees in it. It's something that, you've spent a lot of time. I spent 13 years of my life dedicated to opera, studying opera, performing opera, learning languages. Like, that was, and you have to really take care of your voice, because then the difference with opera too is that in opera you have to have a clean tone. You can't lean on your raspy, like you went out drinking and were inhaling cigars with your buddy last night and you got a little scratchy. You can't use that tomorrow in your opera concert. You might be able to use that in your bluesy rock band that you're playing 11:30 down at, whatever. Like, so opera, it's about pristine, clean sound. So there's a lot more like neuroticism around vocal health in opera than there is like in contemporary commercial music. So opera singers, you'd think that, oh, that's it. It actually is hard on the voice. Opera can be, but the singer, they're just a lot smarter with their vocal health typically.
It's like a trained athlete, right?
Yeah.
Did you guys know Chris Cornell of Soundgarden was classically trained as an opera singer?
Did not know that.
I didn't know that either, actually.
Yeah.
I would argue he's one of, I would say that I think he's probably the most interesting and one of the best male rock vocalists that ever lived. In particular, as far as his tone quality. Like, who had a tone quality like that?
Yeah.
Like, did you guys see his story? Was it story where he was playing acoustic guitar as Storytellers, or not Storytellers? Like, it was just him and an acoustic guitar. It's one of his last things he did. It was the most spectacular vocal. I'd love to react to that on the channel, actually. He's so incredible. Pat Benatar, yeah, I think she was too, yeah. Because she was interesting. She has some head voice in her rock singing, which was different than a lot of singers of that time. Yeah, interesting stuff.
Another vocalist that was trained classically was Jeff Tate from Queensryche. Have you heard of Queensryche?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He has, his vocal range is amazing.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Was the lead singer for Iron Maiden also classically trained? I think I heard that too.
Bruce Dickinson is his name, right?
Bruce Dickinson, yeah.
He can fly planes.
Hey.
Yeah. He flies, yeah.
He flies the band around. He's an actual jet pilot.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So what do you find? Do you find yourself being attracted to one thing? Like, for instance, do you find yourself an artist for their, let's say, their vocal range or whatever? Or do you find yourself more or less, all right, I find myself moving to the beat. This person just got me going to it. Like, is there something that draws you in, even though it perhaps won't draw in other people, but it's because you notice a certain thing about their abilities.
Yeah, it really ties into kind of what I was talking about earlier with the expressive connection. I'm looking for, I love when people take risks, when people take artistic risks, when people are vulnerable, when they go for it, and whatever that song means, whatever going for it means to that song. Like that's like, I like, I mean, authentic, raw, heart on the sleeve,
Yeah.
visceral. I want to feel it. I want to feel I want the spit. I want the air. I want it. The organic sounds. I want the natural stuff
Conviction.
happening. Yes. I want the real human experience happening in front of me. I want the real emotional experience happening that, like that's what I want. I want the channeling to happen. Like that's what I'm looking for.
Kate Bush, Freddie Mercury.
Oh my
there's some more
God.
here.
Yes. Kate Bush, Freddie Mercury. Yep. So, I mean, yeah, Freddie Mercury, my God, talk about expressive singers. Like
One of the things about Freddie is he always hated his massive overbite, but never ever wanted to get it sorted because he was terrified that it would have affected his voice. And I'm wondering if that's something that's even true or not true, or
well, that's possible. I would say probably less probable that it will have a significant like tone quality change to his voice, but for him as a singer, it could be a tremendous change for the user experience of singing. Like that's why you got to be careful, like messing with. This is a muscle memory game. It's a coordination game. It's a like 10,000 hours of deep practicing game. So everything is important. Every sensation, every nuance. So if you all of a sudden like now, one of the things that's a big part of your vocal mechanism is like different. Like I don't know. I would be concerned to get that fixed. I was even concerned to get this gap fixed in my teeth, even though you might say that it could actually help my singing, but I don't know. It's a weird thing. I had my tonsils out when I was, I think, 21. I was an opera major at the time, and I swore that I noticed a difference. Like, you get it done, and as you're a kid, you're like, oh, do I sound as much? Has it fixed all of the problems I had on why I'm not, famous yet? I don't know. It didn't really change much in my sound that I noticed, honestly, or anyone else noticed, to tell you the truth. It did feel different for a bit, but
Scott Wheeler, we can't talk about rock vocalists unless we have to bring up David Bowie for rock vocalists. So thoughts on Bowie?
Oh, Bowie is everything I love in an artist. He's a case study in that.
Favorite song?
Oh man, I would say Life on Mars, probably. Like,
so break down that song. You must know that by memory.
Yeah, so like wait, no. You know what? Actually, I was thinking about David Bowie. Right, my mind just jumped to was, you remember Labyrinth? Did you see Labyrinth? Oh, dance, magic, dance. Remember that song? That was such a catchy song. So I think about David Bowie. David Bowie's voice was It was that whole authentic thing. Like he was so raw and so like hard on his sleeve. Like he was like the same way Chappell Roan is. He was like that too, of just like you could feel there was so much emotion in the way that he sang. And as far as his like particular sound goes, he had a lot, he was kind of raucous a little bit. Like he'd throw his voice. He wasn't hyper, like overly meticulous all the time with every single note. Sometimes it was like calling out. There was like little sort of loose vocal sounds that just were in the expressive moment. Like that, this is exactly what I'm talking about. A singer who's willing to let things go for expression, who's willing to like not sing a note perfectly for the sake of the emotional, the thing that it conveys. Like, these are the artists that I find super interesting. David Bowie was one of these like super raw singers, and his music was I mean, well, his music was very diverse. He had a lot of, you know, everything from very accessible to like abstract stuff, you know, like so I don't know. I mean, David Bowie's a fascinating artist. I think about him as like he's an artist, like, and with a capital A, you know. With again, Chappell Roan is like that too, you would say now. She's one of those.
I want to wrap it up quick here. We went overtime. I know it's really late in the East Coast for you, Tim, but
That's cool.
we have to talk Beatles. We have to talk John Lennon's vocals, Paul McCartney's vocals.
Yeah.
Give me your favorite song of each artist. Break down their vocal range and tell us a little bit more about them.
Yeah. Boy. Let
Or
me think about
even George
yeah.
Harrison with Here Comes the Sun or something, which is
Yeah,
such a lovely
right.
song.
Right, yeah. So, you know, boy, as far as like breaking them down specifically, this kind of sounds like this might be a fun thing to do on the channel, actually, that I could maybe do a reaction to that. That would be a fun
You'll have to
quest
give me a
there.
shout out for that one. There
Yeah,
you
I
go.
will definitely give you
Jeez.
one. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, you know, I'll just say overall about them because I mean that could be a rabbit hole to start breaking them down, but what they're a case study, like the lesson to take from them as far as vocal use goes is that you're not just one thing. Like you're not like, oh, I'm a blues singer. What are you? Oh, you're an opera singer? Great. Well, I guess we won't work together. No, it's like you can sing however you want. You can build your voice in whatever style you want. And those guys are a case study in it from back in the early days when it was the clean sort of, you know, the early stuff that I've just seen a face I can't forget, like this sort of light, bright, all, and then into like, come on, and then we're into like bluesy rock, gritty, like, you know, come together, and like the spectrum of singing over the time, this the diversity of tone qualities that all of them, I mean, they were all over the place vocally. The whole group of them were, you know, from cleaner sounds to Helter Skelter.
Yeah,
My
I mean,
God,
wow.
like Jesus Christ, these guys were off the rails in the.
I was
they
going to
sang
say
crazy.
that. Please me to Helter Skelter.
Like,
Yeah, yeah.
Come on.
what a contrast.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, like the complexity of the harmonies that they did. You know, I mean, the Beatles are. The Beatles are just such an anomaly in the world of music. It's like I don't even know what. There's nothing else to compare the Beatles to. It's like, what were they? You know, were they from here? Like it's wild. You know, but yeah, as far as the folk-
they're aliens.
yeah.
too.
Yeah, I think so. And then I mean, Paul McCartney's singing. What was his latest song? He released that song a couple years ago, and he sounded fantastic on that. In his 70s, 80s. I don't even know how
Well,
old
he's
he
80
is. But
now, but
yeah.
probably 78 at the time.
yeah, God, he sounded beautiful though. His voice, it was clean, and his healthy chords. Like he's doing it. So
Did you guys see that Ringo Starr is releasing a country album in January?
I heard that.
I don't think I'll get it. Well, let's wrap it here, but I do want to go one. So, Tim, we do a lot. We talk obviously records and record players, and Joe is with Pure Fidelity turntables, which you can see behind me. Joe, I'm just going to
Awesome.
show them the picture, and maybe you can show the folks what we're looking at right now. Maybe that will
Sure.
work better.
Oh wow, those
Yeah,
are cool.
this-
Isn't they nice?
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is from left to right here. Basically, these are. I mean, we've got a few different kinds of turntables, and you can kind of customize them or mod them depending on where your price point is. So on the left, we've got our quilted maple. This is our Eclipse model. So we call it our E series. It's got an acrylic platter, but it's got a custom dyed quilted maple finish. We love doing custom stuff. So quilted maple is really cool just because it almost comes out as almost a white color. So when we dye it, we can kind of make it anything. Right now, we actually have a customer who we've done a kind of a blue to go along with his BMW.
That would be
speakers.
cool.
It looks like water. It's stunning. And then the next is kind of our traditional quilted maple. That is our Encore body style. So we've got the two different body styles. We've got the one with the kind of shaved off corner, and then we've got our traditional kind of squared off one. Next one is our Rosewood Harmony. The Harmony and the E-line, the thing that distinguishes it mostly is that isolation platform. So that heirloom aluminum, or aircraft aluminum grade.
You can see it behind me too there.
Yeah, exactly. So it kind of rests in that cradle, and that helps just kind of lower vibrations and outside stuff that you just don't want coming into it. So this is our new beast. This is our Symphony.
Wow.
That's got a 12-inch tone arm, and it's pretty stunning. Michael actually saw that bad boy in person as well.
Michael, what were your thoughts on that bad
That
boy?
was at Pacific Audio Fest. Yeah, they were playing that. It sounded great.
Wow.
So Tim, this is what we talk about. So obviously the different classic
get it.
records and stuff
I get
like
it.
that. I know you saw some stuff, and I still have to do the shoot. I owe the folks a shootout because I know that I got the Speaker's Corner Supertramp, but I also have to shoot it out. I've got the Audiophile A&M version, Crime of the Century, and the Mobile Fidelity one, and then another copy of, and so it goes on. So we just like to compare sound quality, and of course I'll be using my Pure Fidelity turntable behind me there. But tell me more about the tone arm here, Joe.
So this is our 12-inch one. So this has got a titanium arm tube, and this is our Savant. So this is our in-house tone arm, basically, that comes with this beautiful turntable, and it's a burl walnut finish with this one. So what's really cool about having a 12-inch tone arm is we're really known for our finishes, whether it be the quilted maple or our wood finishes, but having a larger tone arm gives us a little bit more real estate to show off the entire table. So the difference with this tone arm, and we don't know exactly how much to attribute to the fact that it's got a thicker plinth, it's got a thicker platter, it's got a larger sub platter. The isolation platform that it rests in as well is also larger. So if you compare this table and you kind of put it next to our other one, I mean, it doesn't seem like it's that much more when you just look at the numbers, but when you see it in front of you, it's radically more substantial. And so going from a 9-inch or a 9.5-inch tone arm to a 12-inch tone arm is huge. Just for that extra kind of 25% that you get out of it, it's mad. I myself don't even have this table in my home.
No, you don't.
And it makes me sad.
Maybe you can send one to Vancouver for a test.
I'm working on it. You're not getting one before me. I'm just saying. But I'm going to work on it. I'll see what I can do. Well, I know a guy, so I might be able to get something. Well, I know a guy.
Thank you so much, Tim. This is a pleasure. This is Let's Talk Music episode 2. We did it. And
this was fun.
You're
guys.
definitely welcome back anytime to go further. We could probably give you an assignment. We can get the viewers to give you some assignments, and you can break down some songs. Would that be cool?
Yeah, because it's hard to pull up on the spot. Like if I heard something a while back, memory, I'd love to talk about it. But yeah, if there's a record or two that people want me to do a little bit of a breakdown and talk about the singers, I'd be happy to. Yeah, you guys are fun. This is a great thing.
When we're doing when they're watching the replays, they should drop in the comments who they'd like to hear from. That you could
drop in the comments, and then from there I'll set it up with Tim, and we can do that again.
Yeah, and I'm happy to react to something too. If there's an old singer you guys want me to react to, we could. If there's one that comes up enough that everybody'd like me to react to, I'll throw one up on the channel. I think you get a lot out of Bowie though, but Bowie would be good. And guys, please subscribe. Tim Welsh Vocal Studios, great stuff. Huge reaction video here. Look at this. Vocal coach to Sex Chapel Roan's Good Luck. And it's such amazing. I've watched it 3. I think I lied to you, Tim. I think I watched it. That was you. Because I love your reaction. I watched it 149,000 times. I mean, there was a funny one in that one because I hadn't heard the song before, and I hadn't heard Chapel Roan before.
I love the fact that you hadn't heard Chapel Roan before, and here you are doing a reaction video. I love the way you reacted to it, your facial expressions, everything. You were in absolute awe over her voice in that video. That's what really attracted me to your channel. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. So check it out. Yeah, this has been good. You're coming back, baby. You're coming back for sure. And Joe, where do we find your turntables? Pure Fidelity.
purefidelity.ca. You can either call the number, in which case you'll probably end up talking to me, or you can fire me off an email, just joe@purefidelity.ca.
There's the phone number there. Check them out.
Great, man. They look really, really good, dude.
Tim,
wow.
I know a guy.
I love mine. I mean, I will tell you, amazing, man, amazing. And I appreciate that. Guys, it was a pleasure. Thank you. Let's Talk Music episode 2. We did it. Tim,
right,
you
good
better get
stuff.
to bed.
All
It's
right.
like it's like what 2 a.m. there in New York.
I don't know.
already.
Yeah. Hey, it's all good. Yeah. Good
Thanks,
stuff, guys.
Thanks, Michael T.
Have a
Take
good
care.
night, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You bet.
Pleasure meeting
Bye.
you, Tim.
All right. Cheers.
Good show.